Hello, my name is Charles Stefano, Assistant Professor in Political Science and Director of the Master of Public Administration program at Westfield State University. I'm pleased to welcome you to tonight's community conversation. Last year, President Thompson initiated the Community Conversation Series. Her goal was to present compelling conversations on topics of community interest through the lens of equity. With many seeking careers with meaning, I'm delighted to continue this series with a conversation on the varied career opportunities municipal governments offer those of different backgrounds, education, and experience, where they can see the meaningful, positive impact of their efforts. Tonight, an esteemed panel of local officials will discuss the opportunities as well as the challenges and rewards serving in local government offers. The discussion will be led by Richard K. Sullivan, Jr., the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Western Massachusetts Economic Development Council, a private nonprofit corporation that provides resources and information to businesses operating in or entering the region by aiding in expansion, relocation, and networking. Before heading the EDC, Sullivan worked as Governor Deval Patrick's Chief of Staff, working with all members of his cabinet to advance the administration's agenda. Other esteemed positions he has held include service as Secretary of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs and Commissioner of the Department of Conservation and Recreation. Mr. Sullivan served as the Mayor of Westfield from 1994 to 2007, and in that capacity, Chairman of the Westfield School Committee. He is a past President of the Massachusetts Mayors Association, past Chairman of the Turnpike Advisory Board, and a past member of the Governor's Local Advisory Committee. Mr. Sullivan holds degrees from Bates College and Western New England School of Law. And now I present Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Charles, and I want to thank you and everybody in the Masters in Public Administration program for everything that you do and for making this opportunity available here tonight. And I too also want to thank President Thompson for creating the Community Conversation platform and, focusing on careers with meaning. And as somebody who has worked or been associated with municipal government most of my adult life, I really don't think that there's any careers that are more meaningful than career in public service, and certainly at the municipal level, which is really, I think, the most important level of government. Here tonight, we have an esteemed panel of 4 individuals who bring a varying degree of experience to their jobs, professionals all in their own right. So let me introduce the panel. To my far left is Kate O'Brien Scott, who serves as Mayor Will Reichelt's Chief of Staff and is also General Counsel for West Springfield. Attorney O'Brien Scott transitioned to her current role in 2021 after serving as town attorney for 5 years. Prior to her service in West Springfield, Attorney O'Brien Scott worked as a labor and employment attorney for a private law firm based in Springfield. A native of West Springfield, Kate graduated from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst with a degree in sports management and later went on to earn her law degree from Western New England University, where she served on the Law Review. Kelly Curran, born and raised in Holyoke, a graduate of the Holyoke Public School, Dean Tech High School. She's on the board of Atlantis de Familias, a nonprofit organization. In January of 2022, she became the personnel director for the city of Holyoke. Prior to that, she was a human resource manager and a recruitment manager and executive assistant at the Holyoke Public Schools for a couple of years. She's worked at the Holyoke Public Schools since she was a high school senior. We won't go into the year. She got her associate's degree from Holyoke Community College and her bachelor's from Bay Path University, and is currently attending Westfield State University and is in the graduate degree and is pending conferment. Thank you. And to my immediate left is Annie Larkin, who is currently the personnel director for the city of Westfield. Prior to her current position, she performed human resources function for the school department in Southwick and in Westfield. And in many ways, Annie's career has come full circle as she returned to Westfield as the personnel director, where she began her career some 20 years ago. She is a graduate summa cum laude from Bay Path University with a degree in human resource management. And our fourth panelist is joining us by Zoom. Mr. Paul Seeloff is a graduate of the Rockefeller College at the State University of New York at Albany, and he graduated with a master's in political science. He also graduated with a Juris Doctorate degree from Albany Law School. After serving as an attorney in New York State Legislature for over a decade, he worked as a municipal manager in several positions in New York State and in Massachusetts, including as the town administrator in Wellfleet, Massachusetts, and town manager in Lanesborough, Massachusetts. Thanks for joining us, Paul. And why don't we go right to you? What is the importance, or what are the opportunities out there for students, graduate students, or really anyone looking to get involved in local government at the position of town manager, town administrator, or town government in general?
Yes, well, first, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I think this is a very important subject in that there's a lot of issues relating to filling positions, virtually in a lot of different positions, not just government or local government, but we do have an aging out, and we are creating a lot of opportunities for young people to step in and have a really great opportunity to get involved at a leadership level at a younger age. If you work in municipal government or local government, you're more likely to get involved right hands-on right at the beginning. You work for the bigger levels of government, federal, state, you're more likely to be tied up for years working in different issues and trying to move ahead. But in local government, we need people right away. The two words I use to describe it most is public service. If you're a public administration student, that has the word public in it, so I'm assuming you're interested in that type of work. Political scientist students are also usually interested in government type work. So local government and municipal government is the way to go with if you want to do public service. It's amazing how you can get involved with things that are so interesting, whether it's working with the police departments, fire departments, in finance issues, in infrastructure issues, and health issues, working with seniors. So there's just so many different opportunities, and we'll get into more of that later. The two websites I always recommend to people who are interested in this is MMA.org, which is the Massachusetts Municipal Association website, and then ICMA.org, which is the International City Managers Association website, where they have lots of information about these careers as well as job listings as well. But that's what I have for now, and I'd like to hear from some of the other people on the panel.
Before we do that, Paul, for anyone that's watching online, if you have questions, you can just submit them through the chat feature, and they will, through the wonders of technology, will appear on my screen. So we'd love to have you become part of the show here today as well. So submit those questions. But Paul, you mentioned aging out of the current workforce, which is not a problem just in municipal government. It really is in pretty much every sector that's out there, particularly in Western Massachusetts. It is an older workforce. But so as that workforce does continue to age out, what are some of the selling points that you would use or you have used to entice younger people to come in and join the municipal government?
Well, like I said, public service is something that I think you have to feel inside of you, that you want to help people, you want to help their communities, like in so many different ways. Public safety is so important to make sure a police officer or a fire truck or an ambulance shows up at your house. Most of those are directly related to local government actions. There are, and it's also very stimulating in so many different ways in all the different areas you get involved in. I personally like finance issues a lot. I love putting a budget together and trying to, work on infrastructure issues and things like that. So I always thought that was very interesting. But the second part of this is what is in it besides that for the individual person who's thinking about it. And, without getting too bare bones about it, the fact is these positions are very well compensated. And if for no other reason that they're one of the few positions around that have pensions nowadays. And for younger people, that may not be a big idea, but when you get on in a few years, knowing that you have a pension available to you gives you a real sense of relief, I think. Also allows you to plan your life a lot differently. And a lot of friends I know who are my age are going to be working until they're in their 70s because They haven't been able to put enough aside because of various reasons. So compensation is very good. Benefits are good too, health insurance, vacation, days off, holidays, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things like that that people looking at these type of jobs should consider. And a number of the panel people work in HR, and they can talk a little bit about that too. But like I said, I just like, when I was working, I've been retired a few years now, but virtually every day, I really look forward to coming into my office to see what challenges were waiting for me, what problems I could solve, and how I could help people.
Thanks. Kate, what keeps you motivated to work in the public sector? You obviously come in with a sports management background and then as a lawyer, so you could be doing a lot of other things, but you're sitting in the chief of staff's position and general counsel in municipal government. What motivates you to do that?
I think one of the biggest things is what you said, Rick, that, you know, it's the first line of government, and you really get to, it's a passion, and you get to see the work that you do make a difference. You know, you're seeing the police and the fire and the changes that you make there and the infrastructure that you help build with the DPW, you know, right on Main Street. You have all of that work that you do, and you see it make a difference right in the community. I think another huge benefit of municipal employment is the work-life balance. As I said, I worked in a private law firm before this. You know, that's kind of a rat race. You're stuck to billable hours. You're, you know, pressured to work all hours of, you know, the day, the night, respond to emails. And when you work for a municipality, you don't have those pressures quite as much, you know, depending on the level of your position. But I think definitely the work-life balance, like the other speaker was saying, with the time off, the holidays, all of those things are great benefits. And then if someone's pursued higher education, one of the huge benefits that I see is the federal public service loan forgiveness program. If you work for a municipality or any government entity for 10 years, all of your federal loans, student loans are forgiven at the end of that period. So that's, I think, a huge draw for a person who might have a lot of student loan debt.
Well, we thank you for letting us lean on your work-life balance here tonight. As the mayor voluntold you to be here, we appreciate you being here. But with, and I'm just fascinated when I was mayor and I would go out to the schools and people would ask, you know, what do you need for a background to be the mayor, or really in kind of any of these positions? There really isn't anything. You're much better off kind of being, you know, a jack of all trades and perhaps a master of none, which may just mean I'm expert in absolutely nothing. But you came from sports medicine. I mean, that's what you chose to graduate in. So was there some day that a switch just got turned, and it's because you don't normally think of being sports administration and moving into?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, I did an internship when I was in college with a sports team and just kind of realized that wasn't for me. And so I pursued my law degree after that, really with no set career path. You know, I didn't say I want to work for the town. I didn't say I want to be a labor and employment attorney. I went to law school. I graduated, you know, right after in 2010. So kind of everything was in a recession at that point. Got in with a firm and did labor and employment law. And I was lucky enough when the mayor was elected, he was the previous town attorney. So that was his background, and he needed a replacement. So I knew a little bit about municipal law from doing the labor and employment. We had some public sector clients. So, you know, he said, do you want to come try this out? And I said, sure. And I think the way you describe it is perfect. You know, it's jack of all trades. You know, some days it's a sewer backup. Some days it's a cell phone tower lease. Some days it's you know, someone hit a pothole, just a little bit of everything. And I think it keeps it interesting because there are so many different aspects of municipal government and the services that we provide that it does keep it interesting every day.
Well, West Springfield's lucky to have you. So let's, Kelly, let's talk a little bit about opportunities, and we can be specific to the city of Holyoke. What are the opportunities in terms of the actual jobs that are there that perhaps the students might not even be thinking that, you know, they'd either be qualified for, or might even be an interest, or would even be a career pathway coming out of a graduate program at the university?
Yeah, so some of the positions we have available now, and I always say with municipal work that if you get your foot in, you can grow very fast. Like my head clerk came in just saying, I want to be able to have a pension. I want like all these benefits. And she quickly went up to the personnel specialist. So I think, you know, coming straight out of college, even if you're a young adult or a veteran adult like myself when I started my graduate program, it's great to get a foot in. But so right now we have assistant building commissioner. I know that doesn't pertain specifically to this graduate program, but a library financial manager and a local inspector. Those are the current ones, but I know Mayor Garcia has some ideas about what next fiscal year is going to look like. So if the budget is approved and goes well, we have some new positions that are tied more to what this program would probably be looking for. We're trying to get maybe a CFO kind of position. So we're excited about that to try to create efficiencies and streamline processes.
So if there wasn't, how would somebody go about, say, beginning that career in local government? They even graduating out of Westfield State University, they're not going to necessarily have a degree in local government. They may have taken the course. They probably should have taken the course since I'm the one that teaches it. But they in public administration, how would you go about just starting off in that career in municipal government?
Maybe through an entry-level position, like there's a clerk position in the Office for Economic Development. So if that's something someone's interested in, starting off as a clerk, there are sometimes planner positions open in that department. Also, volunteering or interning is another way to get your foot in the door and learn and be part of it. Joining a board. We have many boards in Holyoke that would be welcoming people to join if they have to be residents of Holyoke, though.
That's just on the board. If they want to be on the board,
Right.
That's pretty
Yeah.
typical. You got to be a resident to be on the
Correct.
boards,
Yep.
but not necessarily. Some communities have a residency requirement, but
We do for certain department head positions, but not for for most of the positions, there's not a residency requirement.
great. Okay. How about Westfield, Annie? What are some of the opportunities there?
Interestingly enough, I recently did a career fair for the students in Westfield, both at the high school and at the Voc Tech here at Westfield State and over at the Woodward Center. And one of the board that I created actually linked interests in what they were studying in school into positions in the city. And I told the students coming up that I could almost find any job for anything that they're interested in. Our jobs are so diverse in terms of what interests you. Whenever someone asks, where do you work? I say, I work for the city. They say, are you a teacher? There's so much more than the school department. There's the school department, but there's the police and the fire. But not only that, but I mean, if you like math, we need accountants and auditors. And if you like history, there's the library. If you like science, there's even DPW, there's even, the water treatment plant, the sewer treatment plant. They need people who know how to do chemistry and do the tests. So there's so many lawyers. We need lawyers. So if you're studying that, if you're studying nursing, we need nurses, both on the city side and in the school department. So there really is an opportunity for pretty much anyone to find some kind of position linking to whatever your interests are. So,
Paul, let me throw that over to you, and kind of coming from the town administrator point of view or town manager point of view. If a student's got no necessarily prior background in terms of experience, but has the degree, or maybe has the degree and has some other life skills or did some other kind of management role, perhaps not in municipal government, what type of town or administrator's job should he or she be looking at? Or are those opportunities there?
Well, what was just said was, pretty accurate as far as, applying for town boards, town committees. My little town, my medium-sized town of Lanesboro, I must have had 100 different board or committee positions that I was, my job, I felt, was to maintain that those boards were filled at all times. I know that I've talked to some other town managers who don't look at that as a priority, and they have a lot of openings. They may have a 5-member board with only 3 members, but I always tried, when I met people in the community, I always tried to entice them to consider, serving on a board if there's an opening, and I'd keep their name in the back of my head. And it's also true of students too. Particularly if you're looking for a leadership position like a manager, and actually a really good position, which we don't have as many of in Western Massachusetts, is assistant town manager or assistant town administrator. Those are awesome positions for people who are coming out of school, because there's not a great expectation that you have a lot of experience, but you also have a mentor right in the same room with you, which is the town administrator. So I would encourage that. I mean, just recently I was working with a grad student from the college, university, I was asking him, did you do anything? Well, about 5 years ago, I served on my recreation committee. And I said, bingo, that's useful. It doesn't, on its face, it doesn't, but he went to meetings once or twice a month for several years. He participated in voting on issues, researching issues, working with other departments within the town. So that was some very good experience that, gives you a comfort level that if you walk into a town hall or city hall, that you're not walking into some, alien place. It's a place where people work and are every day trying to get things done. And the internship point is so important. I mean, I really think that almost every student in political science and public administration should have an internship. I think most do, but you can have multiples. I mean, when I went to college, I had 3 different internships while I was in college. One was in Washington, D.C., one was in the city government, and one was on campus. And they were all very good experiences that gave me some management experience, as well as, the soft skills of dealing with people, dealing with issues and things like that. So I love internships. In fact, believe it or not, I was just emailing today a gal who is from Armenia, who I'm having trouble communicating with, who is getting her degree in public administration. And we're looking to see if we can get her some kind of internship in Berkshire County, because she wants to work in local and municipal government. And that's what she did in Armenia before she came here. So very interesting connection, I thought.
Thanks. We've had a couple questions come in terms of cost of living and, housing in general, and housing, I think, in Massachusetts over the next, couple of years is going to be, probably more than a couple of years, probably the next decade, is going to be a really big issue, as Massachusetts is really starting to be looked at as a no-growth state. In fact, studies show that people are leaving Boston really for the first time ever. Perhaps some good news that Hampshire County saw some uptick in their population. But just in general, in terms of housing and creating affordable housing, so that, the cost of living, so people can afford here to be able to take these municipal jobs. So what's the conversation like in your communities, so over in West Springfield?
I mean, we're always looking for opportunities for affordable housing. We have a very diverse population in West Springfield. We're also a Community Preservation Act community, so we get, there's a surcharge on our property taxes that raises funds for different priorities within the community, one of which is affordable housing. So we're always looking to partner with, nonprofits and different entities that pursue the affordable housing projects to kind of grow our inventory of affordable housing in West Springfield. And I know that's one of the priorities of the governor. So hopefully we'll see more of that in Western Mass.
How about over in Holyoke?
So in Holyoke, we have a lot of different low-income and subsidized housing areas. Recently, Wayfinders just did renovation of some old buildings into the library commons, right by the Holyoke Public Library, and they're gorgeous. And I hear that's phase 1, and there's 2 more phases, so I anticipate there's going to be more. And I think Mayor Garcia said that's going to be mixed income, so it'll be some low income and some market rate income. And South Holyoke Homes, we just built 12 new units, and that is going to have a couple phases of different construction, so there'll be a little bit more. You talked about Boston, people leaving Boston. When I was a recruitment manager for the schools, I used to try to get students who were going to be teachers to come from Boston over to Western Mass, saying Holyoke's more affordable to, buy homes. I know it's changed a little bit these past 2 years and prices have gone up, but I still think you know, it's way more affordable to live in Western Mass, specifically Holyoke, when other communities' costs are rising significantly.
So I'm interested in that conversation because we have it all the time in economic development when everybody says, you know, the jobs and come work here, and they're like, yeah, but the job pays less than it
Right.
pays in Boston. So, but it becomes a math formula that your cost of living is less. So you know, I'm not saying you don't need as much, but that
Right.
the salary that you're making here is basically the same equivalent. Because when you have to shell out your living expenses. So how did that sales pitch, if you will, getting the teachers to move to Holyoke and live out here and work for you?
Well, I also had like a bonus to give them to relocate. I don't have that over in City Hall, but it was appealing to many because, you know, they eventually do want to start families. They want to have a slower pace of life, to Katie's point, the work-life balance, so they're not in traffic for 3 hours of their day, you know, and they could work 5 to 10 minutes away from where they live. And I always sold Holyoke as like a gateway, like you can jump on the highway to go north or south, New York, Vermont, you know, like we were close to everything.
Right.
So that was appealing to some.
So as a recruiting tool, as we're looking at, you know, trying to get people to move here, the two biggest populations that we have focused on from an economic development point of view are students that, or people that grew up here, so they already have exposure here and they're coming back to start their families, or they matriculated through the colleges and universities and had a good experience when they were here, so there's some connection there.
Right.
But when you're looking to fill those positions that you were referencing before, where do you go to recruit? What does that recruitment look like? Where do you advertise? Where do you reach out to?
Yeah, recruitment is really hard. It's one of the things that I'm looking to kind of build up in Westfield. We haven't had any kind of real solid recruitment efforts. We rely mostly, we unfortunately rely on our website. The speaker spoke about MMA. We use MMA for a lot of our larger positions, but we also focus on some of the organizational specific websites for DPW. There's different websites for that. For the health department, there's the Massachusetts Health Organization. There's those specific websites where we will post, but recruitment is tough without a lot of money. So one of the things that we're always up against in a municipal setting is the funding. We have to have that fiduciary responsibility, they call it, because it is the taxpayers' money that we're spending. So we do try to, do as much as we can with as little money as we can, but it is always a challenge.
How about in Holyoke, if the students out there are looking for a job, what do you do for recruiting so they can go online or they can buy the publication? Or
Yeah, so we have it on our site, holyoke.org. We also use MMA.org or .com. We've used APWA for DPW positions. That's how we got our DPW director from New Jersey. He's been great. Word of mouth. I believe in growth internally, so I always try to look for people who have potential internally to grow them, because those are the people that are most likely going to stay and work hard and climb the ladder. But just networking, emailing. We go to fairs sometimes depending on whether we think it's going to be fruitful or not, because if they're higher positions, we don't want to go to a fair where it's entry-level people applying. But we try to get the word out as much as we can through networking. Social media, we use social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, even Instagram.
Well, I know you do have with you some applications here tonight. So anyone that's here in the audience or online, we can get you those, and we can get you those postings. So hopefully, look to have that happen. What's the best part of your job, Kate?
I think honestly, seeing the difference that we make in the projects and the work that we do. I grew up in West Springfield. My parents grew up in West Springfield, so I've always been a part of the community, and just really seeing all of the hard work that we do behind the scenes culminate in events like Park and Rec having, an Easter Bunny trail hop and seeing the kids and, enjoying themselves and the parents having a great time, or, doing a big infrastructure project and seeing a new, sewer pump station open. Not the most glamorous thing, but, knowing that we're making a difference and the work that we're doing is, visible to the community. And even, paving roads is one of the better ones. Everyone's so happy to get their road paved.
Good, so you didn't mind driving up Western Avenue to get here tonight. So.
But I think just making the difference in the community is probably the most rewarding part of the job.
Yeah. So how about Kelly?
Connecting with people. I'm a people person. In this position as personnel director, I don't get to do like the face-to-face recruitment like I used to in the schools, but I do try to get out there and do that. I enjoy that we hire people, but we also deal with a lot of retirees who spent their life as public servants. And so seeing them come in and just talking to them, and sometimes they'll share stories, and hearing that it makes it worth it. And just like Kate said, seeing things that you've created, because when I got there, we were like far behind in systems and stuff, and they used a lot of paper, and I'm like, this is 2022 at the time, like, why are we using, you don't have to print out every email, I promise you can find it again. So like seeing all of those changes, it feels great to be part of that, and helping improve the life of Holyoke.
How about you, Ian? Because you've been in it for a long time, and you came back.
I did. Like Kelly, I'm a people person, and I like helping people, and definitely in HR, it's a field where you're helping people all day long. I think one of my favorite things is making that phone call to somebody to say, we'd like to offer you a position, because they're just so excited, and and they come in and you're doing the onboarding, and they're just so enthusiastic about the work and about coming and working for the city, and helping the community. So I like helping people find their own little niche, whether it's in our city or not, even if it's something that they're not right for the job that we're looking for, and I have some kind of resource that I can help them out with, somewhere else that they can go. I just like being able to help people find where they need to be.
About you, Paul, and kind of coming from a different position as an administrator, what was the best part of the job?
Well, I'm going to violate one of the rules here, which is I just wanted to answer the one question from before about housing issues, if I could. For 1 second.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in, but one thing I think is important is, although we've, at least my type of position, a senior manager position, residency used to be a much bigger issue, and there's much more flexibility now, because I think the Board of Selectmen and city councils are recognizing that they have to be more flexible. So, if there's a local housing issue in one town, let's say, that's not necessarily a problem, because, at a bare minimum, some of the municipalities say you got to live within the county, and there's a lot of variation within counties. So I always thought that was a good thing. And I'll be honest with you, my two main jobs, basically, that I had in Massachusetts, there was extreme flexibility. They didn't care if I even lived in the county. Relatively, they were happy with the work I was doing, and they wanted to, help support my efforts and help support me grow as a municipal leader. So they were very supportive. So that's really good news, because in the past, municipalities were very rigid with residency requirements. So you may have to do some driving, maybe you have to live a half hour away or whatever, but that's what people do in other parts of the employment world, as we know. So I don't think it's as big of a deal. I mean, it would be great to go into a really affordable apartment, or have an affordable ability to buy an affordable house that was just built under some program or something like that. But, I think there's more than enough opportunities if you look around, especially, I know a lot of people do fixer-uppers, they'll buy a house. And like when I worked on Cape Cod, that was a big thing. People could not afford the brand new houses, but they'd find a house and they'd spend the money to fix it up, and they'd have a nice house to live in. So housing is an issue, but it shouldn't be overwhelming. If you like the position, I think you can work around it. I think I mentioned a couple of things. I really liked helping people, et cetera. One thing I didn't mention was, I think, how interesting the job is as far as, working with state and federal leaders. You may have to go up to Boston or deal with the congressperson's office, which I always thought was very interesting from a political science or public administration point. The other thing is in the positions of municipal leadership, there are a lot of great conferences you can go to. There's training sessions, which are very, very interesting. I mean, if you got involved with the town that was a member of the International City Managers Association, their conferences are all around the country. And they're fantastic as far as like a 3-day training session, plus you get tours of the city to see what they're doing. So all extremely interesting stuff and intellectually challenging too, I think. So that's like one of the benefits, I think, of coming in a municipal leadership job. But lots of times people do start at the mid-level, either department head level or as an aide of some type to somebody or an assistant to somebody. And those positions, after a period of time, give you the opportunity to apply for the more senior positions.
So Paul mentioned, the support system with regards to your, fellow colleagues, if you will, or the different associations that you can, that I think every single department head has an association that's at least, if not regional, statewide. But interesting also that, all the panelists here, know each other in some respect, shape, or form. So can you talk a little bit about the relationships within, the HR departments across the communities and the support that is there? Because it really is an impressive network that's there to support, no matter what level of department head you are.
It is. So I took this job just recently, just in November, and needing some resources, I quickly found an HR director's listserv for the state of Massachusetts, which is wonderful, and it's a great resource, and we're all reaching out for interview questions, job descriptions, salary ranges, I mean, anything that we could need, and it's statewide, which is great, but also kind of difficult because the environment on the eastern side of the state is so different than it is on the western side of the state. So it's great to get that information, but I mean, I was speaking to Kate earlier. I mean, I don't need to learn about a harbor master. That's not something that I'm ever going to have to deal with. So getting that
Camden Ponds might have a harbor master.
Yeah, you never know. So sometimes the emails are overwhelming because it just isn't applicable. But then I found that we have Kelly Beckwith, the HR director in West Springfield, was putting together, and they've had meetings. It's a local Western Mass HR directors group that meets every couple months. We get together and we set an agenda about anything you want to talk about. And so it's great because it's more of a local resource. And we do have, an email connection that we can, hey, have you been dealing with this situation? So it's nice to have that statewide view of HR, but it's also nice to have that smaller local Western Mass view. And we get together every once in a while and it's great.
How about you, Kate?
Kate or Kelly?
No, you're good. Oh,
my grandmother, I had a cousin, Kate, so I would be called Kate all the time.
No,
So when you were looking at me, I'm like-
we'll take Kelly.
Yeah, I agree. The Western Mass group has been very helpful because it's true we get all of those kind of inquiries. But it's been great to network with them, and it also made me feel like, I can help them with some answers, because when I came in last year as a new to municipal work, I felt like I'm going to need so much help. And when I was sharing information with other professionals, I thought, wow, I'm doing better than I thought, because I was in the recruitment world more. And so it's been great to just connect. And they also have conferences that we share ideas and hear best practices and have lawyers come and speak about labor laws, about like the new police post certification. That was helpful. So it is great to have that one network and the listserv and colleagues in the MMA and MMHR. And now the Western, we have to name the group, Western Mass HR group.
So Kate, we talked earlier when we started off about, recruiting and, the packages and the benefits and why people would want to go into municipal government. Is the package of benefits, and, I know there's a long-term retirement plan and those types of things, and you mentioned a great, relatively new benefit in terms of the loan forgiveness, but are the benefits and the salary ranges enough to attract the quality of the candidates and the quantity of candidates that you need to fill those jobs?
I think it depends. I think for our department head level and our professional staff, yes. So if you're coming out of college with a degree, I think we're fairly competitive with private sector employers as far as salary. Certainly benefits. Usually you can't beat municipal benefits. We start with 4 weeks of vacation. You get 3 personal days. You get 15 sick days a year. So I do think it is competitive. I think the lower level jobs tend to be a little bit less competitive. But again, they come with the pension and all the time off and the work-life balance and the scheduling, and that's it's hard to compare on paper, but when you're in it, it does have a lot of value. And I think the health insurance is one of the biggest ones that people overlook. We contribute significantly to employees' health insurance, and we have great coverage in West Springfield. I think it's the same in a lot of municipalities, and so I think when it comes to the whole package of benefits, we are competitive. It's just we offer different perks that you might not get at a private sector employer.
So I am going to come back with one of the last questions here, but I'll give you a minute to think about it, which is, what is one thing that you wish you knew when you started your career that you know now that would have been beneficial to you to know back then? So therefore you've learned. But one of the questions that's come in that I think I'll grab, which is, how does Western Massachusetts kind of get their voice heard? Because you've referenced, the disparity between salaries and populations and just the focus of state government in general being so much in Boston. How do you get Western Mass noticed? And I think the fact that you're all involved in your local, but your statewide organizations is important. I know both the mayors, all the mayors are involved in their statewide organization. And, I'm a big believer that you just need to have Western Massachusetts at the table when they're making these policy decisions. Otherwise, quite frankly, Boston is pretty Boston-centric, and their first default position is, well, this works here in Boston, and they don't roll it out or understand the practical implications of what happens, kind of on the ground and outside of Boston. So I just wanted to thank you for being involved in those organizations. I think it's really important. It, yes, provides professional development and information, but it also helps out the region because it's kind of the reality check, I think, in a lot of ways for what happens or what would happen from Boston. And just a reminder, if you are online, you can submit your questions through the chat feature there. So we've been handling some questions that have come in that way, but also ones that were provided from the students as well. So what's the one thing that you wish you knew back when you started your career that you know now?
I think I wish I knew how great public service was, honestly. And I wish I got in when I was younger. I went to law school and I got in the private sector, and I honestly, didn't know that much about working in the public sector. I kind of got in by chance. And I really wish I knew about it sooner and I had gotten in at a younger age, because the way the pension system is set up, the earlier you get in, the earlier you can get out. That's really, it's a great career. There's so many different, like Annie said, there's so many different aspects of what government does that you can get involved in, between, council on aging, libraries, sewer work, water work. And I wish I had known about the opportunities more and had kind of had that chance to get in on the ground level.
Kelly?
It's a good question. There's probably a
Well,
long...
it came in from one of the students. That's why it's a good one.
Yeah, it's probably a long list, but for my specific position now as the personnel director for the city of Holyoke, I wish I knew more coming in about law, actually, because it intertwines with my job every single day. Thank goodness we have a strong solicitors department that I lean on, but interpreting ordinance has been very fun. some of it's from the 70s. And so, having to navigate that and just updating it to meet the needs of our current employees and, candidates in the city, I wish I learned more about that before.
How about you, Annie?
I wish I knew how rewarding it really would be working in a municipal setting, especially in City Hall. I love Westfield City Hall. It's a wonderful building. It's a beautiful building. When I started there was an individual who had been working there for a number of years, and he said to me, Annie, I knew it when I walked in the door, and he had just come right out of high school, and he said, I'm a lifer. And he did. He was there for his entire life, and he just retired.
Wow.
Last year, I think it was.
Wasn't the custodian, was it?
That'd be him. That's him. And he was there, gosh, I want to say probably 40 years maybe. And it really is the type of job where you can just settle in, you can just really get the work done, really enjoy it. The people in the building, they're all so hardworking and dedicated to the city, to the work that they're doing. It's a great group of people, even outside of City Hall, the people in the DPW and the police and the fire department and the school department. They're all just so dedicated to what they're doing for the city in public service. It's so rewarding, and I came in and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to be one of those lifers, and I probably will be. I'm hoping that this position is my last stop. I'm hoping that, a couple more contracts to go, and that'll be it, and this is where I'm going to end up.
Oh, we're lucky to have you, and welcome back. We're lucky to have Tommy, too, so he was great. Paul, how about you? What's the one thing you wish you knew back then when you were starting your career that you know now?
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I agree. Yeah, it would have been nice starting early for the dual purposes of one, financially it would have been beneficial to start my career and taking advantage of the benefits and everything, which sounds selfish, but it was part of the contract I had. You have a contract with government, and that's part of it. You provide the services and you get compensated. So that's one thing that would have been a benefit to getting started a little earlier. The second thing relates to, helping people as well. I mean, I really do enjoy this work, and I could have done more years of it. The best example I can give is, as mentioned in my introduction, my first 10 years or so, I worked in the New York State legislature, both the New York State Assembly and the New York Senate as an attorney. And I thought that was the cat's pajamas. We were in there, working on amending laws or dealing with regulations, helping the public with issues and stuff like that. But it was at such a higher level that when I switched over to municipal government, I was like, this is amazing how much more of an effect I can have working in this arena as opposed to the state or federal level. That's not to say, particularly as you advance up in the state and federal offices, that you don't have the opportunity to have great impact. But at least on one level, working on municipal and local government level it's hard to compare to anything else. So I'm, like the people we're talking to now, most of which are either recent graduates or still in school and looking to figure out what they want to do, seriously consider this, because there's mutual benefits both for you and for the people you can help.
And I think that's a bit of a change, Paul, historically, where a municipality might not have been looking for somebody just coming out of college or from the university. They would have been looking for, more experience. So, how has that changed the hiring philosophy or the hiring practices of the cities or towns? And I've got one follow-up to that, a question that just came in.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the best example I can give is that when we're talking about people coming out of school, to a large extent, we're talking about opportunities with smaller towns, smaller municipalities. That's just the nature of the beast. But I'm seeing it in Berkshire County, and I'm sure it's true of the neighboring 3 communities just to the east of us, that the people who are making the decisions, the select board, they're starting to look at things, I think, a little differently and be willing to be more open, especially if the person coming in can have a mentoring relationship with somebody. Like we had a position available, which is, I think still, it was taken off, but I think it's going to pop up again in June, where the person who is the head of the select board is the former town manager. It's actually a two-town position. And the other town, the person is a former, he's been on the board of selectmen for like 30 years or something. So both of them have really intense municipal experience. So they could risk theoretically reaching down and taking somebody who is a little bit more of a newbie because they see the fact that this person will stay for several years. And also, frankly, as was mentioned by the panel, bring in new ideas. You know, something is we mentioned, using too much paper, you know, or, you know, just coming up with new ways of using IT to make things more efficient. So the opportunities are there, but once again, it does help to have a little bit of experience, try and get an internship in a town government, try and or get a job or volunteer for a committee. That kind of helps. Just having those one or two little things going for you is enough to open the door for a possibility of a position. And if there's, once again, if there's an assistant position, town manager,
Yep.
town administrator, that's even better, you know?
How about somebody walking in perhaps with not as much government experience, but perhaps a nonprofit background?
Oh, yeah, don't underestimate that. Like military background's another one that's helpful. But nonprofits are very equivalent in that they have to deal generally with some kind of board of directors that they have to answer to. I was involved with a non-for-profit about 25 years ago, and I find that experience was really very similar. And so that's actually a very good experience. Combine that with, you know, if you have done anything with the government, then you got that going for you too. Now, on the private side, once again, if you were, let's say, a department manager of a store or something like that, you've got a good foundation there. But, you know, it's a little different than dealing with public policy and things like that. But once again, if you did that and you also served on your finance committee, your planning board, or something like that, that's a great combination to apply for a position as a town manager, town administrator, or other leadership type position.
So how about when you're drafting up the requirements on these, have you seen the requirements for the jobs that you're posting, particularly at the, say, the mid to the upper range, changing over here recently? I mean, I know it's probably not good news for colleges and universities, but Pennsylvania just made a pretty sweeping change that they took away, or they took out of their job requirements, you know, 4-year degrees. So have you seen that in terms of educational requirements or experience? Has that changed in what you're putting in the postings in Holyoke?
Yeah, it had to change. Some of the, like, for example, we had the DPW director and engineer degree was required, and we have 2 city engineers, so we don't really need a director to have an engineer degree, and we were finding that we weren't finding any directors with degrees. So, you know, we started change not only for that one, but for other positions, making it preferred either with equivalent experience or, you know, experience or a degree preferred. But we want something with the background. But we have changed it and loosened it a little bit to try to get more competitive, especially in this past 2 years. Recruitment has been terribly difficult.
How about in Westfield? Are you seeing those requirements change?
Yes, we have. Rick knows that. As we recently did our DPW director job description, and we did change it and Kelly was a great help in providing the information that they did to be able to recruit somebody for their city. So we did change it, and we did, again, we loosened it up a little bit so that it's not so geared towards finding that unicorn, because number one, you can't find that unicorn. And number two, that unicorn may not be appropriate for the job. I had read in one of my studies that when you're building a job description, it shouldn't be what you think the candidate should have. It should be what they would have to have in order to succeed in that position. So having an engineer degree for a DPW director is great, but it doesn't mean that they can't succeed in that position without one, because they have the support of so many other people in their department, whether it's assistant department heads, engineers in the other departments, deputy directors. those people are really geared more towards what they're directly working with, whether it's the water department or the sewer treatment plant. So the department the department head who's overseeing that doesn't necessarily have to have those specific qualifications. It's a leader that you're looking for because they are leading a large group of people. We have, I think it's 8 or 9 divisions under our DPW director because we have encompassed the water department and the sewer department and the wastewater. I mean, it's all in there, the parks and rec. So you really need someone who's going to be able to lead a large group of people, and the dynamics all the way from the assistant director down to the laborer. They need to be able to have the knowledge of how to find the best people to lead all of those. So I agree that changing job descriptions is how you're going to find quality candidates who can succeed at those jobs.
So Kate, then, it really sounds like those requirements are skills-based requirements and leadership-based. And so having a background with a master's in public administration in healthcare or public management or nonprofit management, that would be an added benefit to those skills and to leadership, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with what both Kelly and Annie have said, that we're definitely looking at recruiting differently and looking for a different, more diverse candidate pool. Whereas I think the old trend in municipalities used to be, you had to have experience, you needed to have X number of years working with a DPW. Whereas, we're finding that when we broaden our horizons and look for people who have different kind of degrees, different kind of educational background, different kind of experience, we want them to come in because it gives us those new, fresh ideas and ways to approach things. And I think municipalities kind of used to be a little bit slower to embrace new change, and we're really trying to find those different leaders to give us a fresh perspective.
Which is why your public administration degree from Westfield State University is so valuable.
Yes.
So everybody ought to be in the program. We're coming up against the hour, Paul, and I didn't know if you had any last closing thought or message you wanted to send to everybody.
Well,
Does anybody here?
I think we've had a really good overview of the types of positions we're talking about, what the governments are looking for to fill them out. And I like that couple of comments about the reverse unicorn, which was basically not trying to make it, so fine-tuned that we're looking for the perfect person, because we don't need somebody to be absolutely perfect. We need somebody who's really good in a diverse amount of areas in most cases. And I think that's a very positive thing in the HR world to do that, because, you have people who could be coming in out of left field who have experiences. In fact, funny story, not that this is specifically on point, but town of Lanesborough, my old town, hired somebody to be the town administrator there, who was an elections manager or commissioner in Australia. She worked there for, I think, 2 decades, managing statewide elections there, and but she had incredible administrative knowledge. And I've been helping her a little bit, mentoring her a little bit. She has other people, because she hadn't worked in Massachusetts local government before, but there's no doubt that she's going to do a great job. And so I like the idea of not necessarily trying to fine tune and look for something. We want people who want to do public service, who've got a good general background. In this case, graduate degrees are fantastic, in my opinion. I mean, you just pick up so much in finance and IT and things like that, which local governments really need. And also, last thing I want to say, and relates to specifically Berkshire County, but also Western Mass, is that I hope that people don't have a hesitancy about looking at positions out here because of some old thoughts about what it's like here. We're not Boston. Yeah, we're not Boston, but we have a lot of great things out here. If you like nature, if you like hiking, if you like skiing, if you like the great outdoors, Berkshire County and Western Mass has that. As somebody mentioned earlier, we're close by so many different things. Boston's only a few hours away. New York City, Montreal is all within reasonable distance if you want that type of getaway or something like that. We have incredible arts and museums out here, and also a great bunch of people who are, trying to move Berkshire County in particular forward by being creative and doing things to help each other and work together to improve life for everyone. So there's a lot of good things out here. I mean, if you want to live in an apartment on the 14th floor or someplace in Boston, yeah, that's your choice. But if you're looking for something really nice as an alternative, we have a lot to offer out here.
I want to thank you for giving the Chamber of Commerce speech for Western Massachusetts, which I give almost every single day. And I couldn't agree more, both with yourself and with the panelists, as again, somebody that has spent a lot of time in local government. It really is the best job that I've ever had, because you can actually impact the community that you live in and that you care about, that your family is going to grow up in, and that you choose to live in. And I think our panelists have all given really great examples of some of those projects that have made a difference in everybody's life. And it isn't every job that you get to go home at the end of the day and know that, maybe you haven't made a difference every single day, but when you put them all together, you definitely have made a difference in the quality of life in the community that we call home. And it really is a really rewarding career. And I've got to say that the program here at the university has really shown great results. I know students that went through the program last year are actually serving as town administrators in Massachusetts. One of them is on the Cape, so we did lose her from the Berkshires to the Cape, but the opportunity that this program creates and the career pathways that it creates can be really life-changing and meaningful and impactful. I would encourage someone that is really interested in their community and has a passion about improving the quality of life for themselves, their families, their neighbors. Really, municipal government is a great place to go, or state government, but I do have my passion for the local government, and I think the three panelists that have joined us here today are perfect examples of individuals that are really making a difference in their communities. So I want to thank them, and Paul, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Mayors Reichelt and Garcia for participating. I know they've got fond and close connections to the university as well, and just encourage anybody that wants to get involved in perhaps a career in local government. Use us all as a resource. I mean, I think one of the things that was really clear tonight is that local government in particular and government in general is about relationships. And so you've got some really good resources that are here, and everybody is always willing to try to lend a hand and give a hand up and connect you to opportunities that are out there in your communities. So please don't be afraid to reach out for that. But I wanted to thank Charles again and everybody in the public administration program for what they do every day, and President Thompson again for creating this forum. I need to thank Miranda, who's managed the floor here today and done a great job, even though we're having a little problem reading exactly what it is, and we're a little early, but I'm always ahead of schedule, so that's great. Thanks also to Avery for doing a great job, and Mark St. Jean and his entire crew, Alex and Chris, are the best in the business, and you do a great job, and thanks for making this work here for us tonight. So unless somebody has a closing word, I will just again thank everybody for joining us here tonight, and thank you for their time, and really think about getting involved in your local communities, and think about enrolling in the public administration course up here in the university. So thank you and good night.